Let's stay the same distance all the way past the airport. And we set up just like you would for any other runway. You see two white cones at either end. They're really small and hard to see. The first time you see them, they'll be easier.
I see them right now.
Yeah, that's kind of your end of the runway.
Okay.
Or the beginning, depending on which way you look at it.
Right.
Most soft fields we don't practice as touching those. We practice when I stop, and then we taxi back.
Okay.
That's good practice. I beam the numbers. We pull the power back to about 17. So go ahead and pull the power back because we're...
At 17?
Yep, 17. Ease that nose up so that you can slow this airplane down into the wide arc. If you want to, you don't have to. Flaps, notch of flaps. And then you're trying to slow her down to about that 65, 70 on the airspeed. I look back around here. It's about the right time to turn base.
Alright.
45, we're just a little long, but not far. Watch your airspeed though. Gotta relax. Even in the turn, don't want to be slow. I'll have to go over my minimum maneuvering speed.
Entering left downwind, 160.
And then when you're on the base, next notch of flaps. A lot of times we just, 20 is usually all we really need on average, depending on the crosswinds and or the lack of wind. The lack of wind, I use more flaps.
Right.
So now you can see where the two white cones is. That's where we're headed. Keeping our speed all the way through this turn. This hand should always be on this so that you're at the ready. See, we're getting low. We need to be adding power. So this is why if you're below 1,000 foot AGL, your hand should almost never leave that throttle unless it's got to work something else. So we could be as slow as 55 here, probably 55, 60. Think of it as a window, not an exact number.
Right.
And then if we're not coming down, we start maybe taking a touch of power out or add it back in if we want to climb. So do it till you hear it, and you'll be surprised what happens. The airspeed's the most important. Always the most important.
Right.
And aim for the center of the field, preferably. When you know you're going to make it, you can pull that power out, just start using it out. Drop the nose just a little bit to keep that speed until your flare. Hold it off, let her land. Hold, hold. And that's your fast field landing. So you just hold the boat, just let her kind of roll until she's ready to come to a stop. Got her under control, then you can go with carb heat back in. You want to do that on any time you're on a grass field because you can adjust a lot of dirt into the carb. Really don't need it unless it's less than 70 degrees in an airplane.
Okay.
The outside temperature right now is still in the 80s, 90s.
Traffic not available.
You're not going to develop carb ice. Even in the winter, I've developed carb ice once in a 152. Yep, we turn around, taxi back to the other end. Then you can bring the flaps up again. Flaps. So the whole idea of soft field is keeping that nose off until it falls down on its own weight. So welcome to Rome Meadows. If you're going to be a missionary pilot, you're going to land on probably more than a few grass strips or dirt strips or gravel bars or any of that. I'd like to send you to my dad for some of that lesson. He's got a sitar beret you could do. Take you out and show you how you land on a sandbar. Be like, oh, okay. When do you leave again?
I'm leaving the 14th.
Okay. Don't have a lot of time. Probably won't get you there to Vernon.
Yeah, no, I don't. Not have a lot of time, but
We'll get as much as we can in.
I'll be around.
I'll be back. Is that a threat or a promise?
Both?
yeah, sounds about right. That's me.
Actually just signed up to go down to Hurricane Anna relief.
Okay.
That'll be fun. Doing some aircrew missions with Civil Air Patrol.
There you go.
First time doing that, so I'm excited.
Gotta look into Operation Airdrop. We have a Facebook group and they have a website and stuff too. They did during a couple of the previous hurricanes. Airplanes flew in supplies where they couldn't get vehicles in. So,
That's cool.
Yep.
Do you want to come over here?
Yeah, you can just turn around on the runway. You don't have to get up in somebody's yard. So, soft fill technique's a little bit different. We're going to put 10 degrees of flaps in. We're going to kind of line up down the center of the runways. You ever notice most grass runways kind of have this crowning or this sloping to the sides? That's to run the water off better.
Okay.
So sometimes you want to avoid the ditches area. And as you take off, we're going to hold this yoke back. Yep, make sure you're in your seat, right? And then you're going to release it, and we can go. So a true soft field, like if it was a dirt field or something, or, you want to not stop. But in this case, we're good because it's super dry.
Right.
So let's do our takeoff. And we use those rudders. That nose is going to come up off the ground as you pull back. And it should. Then you kind of relax it just a little bit. Use those rudders a little more firmly. Yeah. Look down there where you want this airplane to go. And that's where you rudder to. And she comes off the ground, lower the nose. Like a low pass. You can fly her where you want, but that gets your airspeed build up. Flaps come up.
Pops up.
Yep. And then you go back to normal flight.
Cool.
You're like, whee! But the biggest thing is get into that low pass, because she's going to come off the ground early. But don't be afraid of that rudder, in that sense, when it comes to steering her. She's going to slide a little bit on grass. That's normal.
Okay.
Not the lesson you thought you were getting today, huh?
No, not exactly.
Hopefully it's a good lesson in the end.
It's a good lesson.
You go back and read soft field going, oh, so yeah, 500 foot, 90-degree turn. I always look off my wing and turn to it. So that way I can sit back and relax in the seat, and then when I see it come up to my nose, I know to stop the turn.
Right.
Because you never have things, you rarely have something that lines up perfectly every time, or your DG, so right about here. Roll the wings up, and then you look back, close enough to a rectangle. And then you're looking for the right distance. Look off your wing and head to it. And you just roll. This way I can sit back and relax and let the airplane off. The two focuses, We roll out, parallel. Whatever was in front of us, and then we should look at our runway and go, yep, close enough, and we adjust accordingly. Finish our altitude, level out. Downwind 13, roll meadows. Alright, 1900, we're getting close to nose over to level flight. Runway should stay about halfway, or slightly higher than on the strut, but never too far away. Not like some of the other schools. Beam the end of the runway, pull the power out. Pull back to about 15 to 17, so always thinking that window. Keeping her going straight, so whatever you're looking at that was holding her where you wanted to be. Airspeed starts slowing down, you can put the 5 to 10 degrees of flaps.
First notch flaps.
So always think if everything is kind of in a window, because you can go back and adjust it once it settles down.
Right.
Looks about right. Time to make that turn.
952 uniform, 5 miles east, setting up for a left base, runway 1.
Even that airspeed in that 65, 70 in this, even in the turn. She's going to want to come down, but you got to control that airspeed all the way through the turn. Can't control the airspeed, really can't land this airplane good, or any airplane for that matter. 90 degrees, roll out, because remember, has that look. Wing comes up, that's when you're going to see everything.
Right.
And then you can always adjust, maybe in the 20 degrees of flaps. And then start turning for final when you think it's about ready. Keep that airspeed, should be about that 65-ish. And then we adjust the power accordingly every time. Power is altitude, yoke is airspeed. Airspeed is life. Power is your income. Energy management is your savings account. Well, we're a little high, so we need to pull some power. And we can even go with the next notch of flaps, or our last of them, to help us come down. So that allows us to put a little more nose down and hold the same airspeed.
Aircraft 844 Hotels Command in position for departure 17, right turn to the north.
Still a little high, huh? Well, not much else we can do, but wait it out or plan a go around. So we kind of should always kind of have a spot, probably at the midfield point. Like, if I'm not going to be looking like I'm down, come back around. We'll go around, come back, try again. All of a sudden, she's about to fall out of the sky. Because you use up the same amount of runway, whether you force her down or you let her come down. So make sure that tower is all the way, stays out. Don't flare it out until you're ready to flare. So if you lead off that airspeed too soon, level out, look down the runway, and then you see her sink, nose up some, little at a time, little at a time, little at a time. And just hold it there. Just don't let that nose down until it falls on its own weight. And it will.
Alright.
And then slowly bring her to us. So if you were in really soft turf, you just would hold it until come to a stop. This is why tail wheels often are used on the backcountry where there's really soft turf, is because the airplane is less likely to flip because those wheels won't dig in. Whereas the nose wheel, unless you got a big enough, wide enough nose wheel, will have a tendency to dig in. The idea is to be slow enough so that maybe you won't do the least amount of damage if you had an emergency land in a cloud field or something.
That makes sense.
If you land in a cloud field, try to land with the rows if you can. It's less bumpy that way. Don't ask me how I know that. I promise it was in a car, not an airplane. So you can bring your flaps up to the 10. That way you're at the ready for the soft field technique. And we just taxi on back. And grass, you're always going to need more power because there's more friction going on, and we're going a little bit uphill.
Right.
But with all these crosswinds we're dealing with, otherwise you'd never get to fly if you didn't. So you probably want to keep your hand on the throttle, just like you would keep your foot on the car throttle. That way you can adjust accordingly. As you can see, you get too close to the edges, you get things there, there might be something there, or your wings get too close to a fence line, but
Okay, yep.
just whatever it takes, sometimes you gotta taxi to the edge a little bit so somebody else can pass you type thing, people taxiing around each other trying to get to where they want to go. You'd be surprised what happens at some of these little fly-ins and stuff. They're scary some days.
That sounds scary.
They are. The biggest thing about fly-ins is you have to understand is half the people that come to them are not used to flying with crowds. And so they don't know the ins and outs. So they're your Sunday flyers. They're your weekend flyers.
Right.
Not people who go do backcountry and do all this stuff and really can land short and do all that other fun stuff that kind of limits how much danger is involved. Places like Reclaw, it's like, oh, y'all people are just scary. Oshkosh, at least you have controllers.
Yeah.
And even then, they're not a guarantee, because remember, it's kind of a unique event in itself. But,
Especially this year.
yeah, nothing happened. Poor controllers. All of them took vacations elsewhere. Now keep your yoke back all the way. And then start going down the runway. So you want to keep it all back, just like you would on the check ride. All the way in. That nose is going to come off the ground. That's when you can kind of relax, just enough to barely let that nose touch the ground. Rudder that plane straight. More right rudder, more right rudder. There you go. Point her where you want her to go. And then you just kind of lower the nose to low pass. See? Now you're going to build up that airspeed, and then you can go into a normal climb as you get your flaps out. You just want enough speed to take the flaps out.
Okay.
But if you don't lower the nose, no airspeed.
Makes sense.
They don't want you to come out of the ground effect until you have at least that VX. And usually once you bring the flaps out, you just go back to VY. Cool, huh? Yeah, I'm just preparing you for that missionary school. That Michelle that I was talking about, who mentioned it to me. She had bought her own little tail dragger and was flying it and working on it. I don't know if she ever actually got her mechanic's license or not. Roll it out right about here. If we look back, yeah, we overcorrected just a little bit. That works. Just gotta pick a different spot next time.
Alright.
And look what you put, what you see off your wing and turn to it. Little rudder to give it the start. Sometimes you lead it with a little tiny rudder, sometimes you learn to get it right on the spot. So when your nose, you see it coming up, roll out on it. Right, left rudder, left aileron. Don't even worry about what this looks like until you're here, and then you can look over and going, I need to close in, I need to get further away. It looks like we're closing in on it, so we want to readjust our sight picture just a little so that we're tracking parallel. Some days, yeah, you're flying like this. Some days you're flying like this. Altitude's already there, level out. And the end of the runway's there. It all happens in that fast. So beam the numbers, 15 to 17. Just pull it on back. You don't have to hesitate, because you got to remember, you're still flying out here. If you don't pull back, we continue flying away from the airport.
Right.
We don't want to fly far from the airport. I want to be able to glide to it. So airspeed's good, 10 degrees, and turn. Because if you get too far out, what happens if the engine did quit? You won't land at the airport, most likely.
Right.
Yeah, and then somebody might also think you're leaving the airport. They'll cut in front of you, and I'm that kind of person. 90 degrees, right about here. Yeah, close enough.
And the Safix, Skyliner 1 is on the right downwind climbing out in the Safix.
And then we can go for the 20.
Point.
Yeah, so don't be afraid of, it's like, nope, gotta really power back, You know exactly about where you want things, then you can go back and minutely fix it as necessary. Yeah, and head for that runway. This, turn always varies based on how the wind is pushing you. If the wind is pushing you away from the runway, you're going to turn a little late. If the wind is pushing you towards the runway, you'll turn a little early. If the wind is right down the runway, your guess is good as mine. And then we look to see, does it look like my airplane is going to land past those pylons, if we don't change anything, or do I need to make a change? I'm coming in too low, add the power. If I'm coming in too high, pull the power. And whatever you do, you end up changing it up. You're like, there's never easy. It's never. So aiming for the center of the runway, you can see that we got just a hint of a crosswind. You saw her learning sideways. So you got that runway made. We can pull that power to idle. Keep that nose slightly down. Keep that nose slightly down until we're ready to flare, which is only a few feet off the ground. Now we look level out, look down the runway, and then as she sinks, nose up. And now you're just hold it off. As she sinks, but not enough to climb. Traffic not available. Cool, huh? So just hold that nose back, even on one of these takeoffs. And especially in a lot of Cessnas, they're real notorious for their nose shimming. So if you keep that nose back, then she's not going to fly because she's too slow.
Right.
And two, you prevent a lot of that nose shimmy, especially if you don't hit the brakes hard. Because anytime you hit the brakes hard, it puts that weight back on that nose. She might shimmy if she's too fast. We'll flip around. Release the brake, let it roll around, yeah, and then you go back to braking. Sometimes you gotta let them roll forward before you take it off. So I want to do this pattern one time, and I want you to kind of watch the big picture.
Okay.
We'll go back to doing it again. See if we improve your technique in it. Excuse me. I haven't done anything with Civil Air Patrol in several years. Used to be a captain. My daughter was a cadet for a little while.
Cool.
I just got, well, my son was in the cadet also for a little while. Basically had to quit because I had to figure out where my time was going to be spent between the flight school and family life and all the other things, the gift academy, and then I was like, I don't have time to go to all these classes. My son didn't want to go to them.
Pretty easy to let it take up a lot of time.
Anything can take up a lot of time.
Yep.
I finally said, okay, I can only be spread so thin, so I had to pick what I felt was right for me. And this school takes up all my time. So I'm going to push this to 10. We'll get flipped around. So I'll take the plane. Yeah. So get her a little closer. I'll have about a couple of those spots in this runway. Definitely a few bumps on the runway. I haven't met a crash runway that doesn't have at least one. So, keeping it right, everything's set. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Going in the tower. Nose is going to come off. And we're just going to relax a little as it just sort of skims the top of that grass. Every time I get a little faster, I got to keep relaxing just a little more until she finally comes off the ground on her own. Lower that nose a little bit. And it's more just relaxing my hand to let the nose come down. Airspeed builds up. Yeah, it's not pushing the yoke over. It's just relaxing my grip. Because she's already should be kind of trimmed for that climb out. And she is trimmed right here. See, she's going to kind of hold that climb. And I don't have to think about it. So every time I was letting go, she was just kind of relaxing her nose into that normal level flight. So that's why I use my trim so much. So we're going to get about 500-ish, give or take. So touch that right rudder, keep that ball where it's supposed to be. And 90-degree turn, so I kind of look off my wing and start turning to it. See, I just always kind of here. I'm not really trying to look up at the wing or look around it. I just see where I want to see and bring it up to a stop. And I'll look back and I'm pretty close to a 90. Still climbing and I'll get the right distance away and I'll look off my wing to see what I see and turn to that. And that'll get me downwind. So it's not something close, it's usually something a little far.
Right.
About the time it kind of comes up just to this edge of the cowling, it's about the time I need to start stopping the turn. I'll get the words out in a minute. Then I'll keep her climbing. So maintaining that airspeed all the way around. I maintain my distance depending on how the wind is pushing me.
Traffic about Team 65.
And then when I'm at my altitude, I can just kind of push the nose over with my thumb a little bit. To build up a little speed, I can take a little power out as necessary. I'm going to be screaming, demon down here. Looking for the end of the runway, getting there. This is like a moment of taking okay, next. End of the runway, getting ready to reset things. So, team the end of the runway, I'm going to pull her back to about that 15 to 17. Easing that nose slightly back, but it's already kind of trimmed there, because I never adjust that trim for the level flight.
Alright.
It goes too quick. Airspeed's in the wide arc, 10 degrees of flaps. Now I'm looking for my 45 from the end, and we're getting pushed away. As we get slower, sometimes we get pushed a little more, so we have to correct in. And then make that turn, keeping that airspeed right around that 65. And it comes right over the top of this little tower. But I'm usually looking further out this way. Right about a hair. It's pushing me, so I can see sometimes it pushing me, and I finish the turn into the wind a little bit more. I see it feels a little low, so I just added a little power, and I did notice that it was a little below the 15, so I pulled a little much. It happens.
Right.
You know, that's the whole point of take a second, look back, you can fix it. Nothing has to be perfect, but I found my window.
And
Because I'm looking for final.
One jump us out in approximately 1
And I know
minute.
that wind's going to try to push me away a little bit, so we're going to turn just a hair on the lake side. I don't need to look at anything else because I know I'm going to see a runway come up in my nose. Look at that. And then I can adjust my bank based on how I'm approaching the runway. This way I sit in the plane, not try to... Because anytime people start looking around their wing, they start not managing the airplane.
Okay.
The idea is to sit back and relax, and then your passengers are relaxed. That's a key point there. If you can't see through your wings, they're about as clear as mud. Kind of like, your parents yelling at you for standing in front of the TV. You're like, oh. I had kids. I was one of those kids. I got hit in the back of the head quite a bit. Holding that airspeed, and then when I know I got that runway made, that power can go to idle. Sometimes I have to drop my nose just a little bit to hold that speed until I'm ready for this flare. Looking down the runway, control it, ruddering her straight, and then as she sinks, start easing that nose up. As fast as she sinks, as fast as that nose comes up, and it stays off the ground. So even on a paved strip, I want that nose to stay off as long as possible. Maybe even bump into the stall stage, then first that hint of a stall. That way, she's not going to fly again. So you're not going to bounce.
Right.
That's the goal. Believe me, I'm very good at that goal. But it's the least amount, and because at a certain point, the tail's going to stop flying. That's when you turn around. Turn around. So it's your plane again.
All right,
So even on the grass, you want to learn to keep that nose back. So hopefully you saw the slightly different viewpoint for the picture. Yeah, you can give her a lot more brake than this. Once you got the power rolling, then she could take the brake. Well, they don't want to stop and actually talk to these people just because. Like I fly out of here all the time.
One jump us out below use.
I think they have grandkids because they always seem to be playing with some kids, and then there's no kids for weeks on end. I could live out here. I'd be happy. I mean, train track's a little close, but there's an airport. There's this runway.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't get much louder than...
Yeah, I mean...
And the traffic, Skydive 1 is on the descent. I got jumpers over the field. G, use caution in the traffic.
Okay, 10 degrees of flaps. And then we could go.
Alright.
Keep that nose back. Yep. All of that, get her off. Then you can relax just a little. So just relax your grip. But rudder her straight. Rudder her straight.
Northwest traffic, Cessna 01.
Don't be afraid of it. Relax your grip a little bit more.
To the northwest.
Relax it a little more. Relax it a lot more. Now to get her to level flight. You almost have to give her because you got to get that airspeed built up. And then you can lift her off and get that out.
That's up.
Yep. You've got to rudder her straight on the ground or in the air.
Traffic, Warrior 58 over Victor.
Do what you got to do. Don't be afraid of it.
Miles to northeast. And
Worst case, you get it going cockeyed, you throw the power out of it and let her come to a stop.
But
And the plane will almost always try to weather bank. downwind 13, Romeo. Just in case some random people are coming through.
Yep.
As you can tell, nobody out. And there's your altitude, and there's the end of the runway. Imagine that. Happens all at once. In the summer, this is not uncommon. You'll do everything you can to climb to altitude, and you're still there, so hold on back.
Back to 17, right?
Oh, yeah, 15 to 17. Nose already in the right arc, so...
Skydive 1 is on the descent.
And you're looking for your 45. When you're kind of looking through me or just behind me to get to it, time to turn. So you look off your wing, turn to it. Just think relax without pushing. So you relax your grip and then you can go back to tightening a grip. Because when you tighten your grip, you'll pull back. So when you loosen your grip, it'll allow the nose to fall. Make sense?
Yes.
That way you can finesse her. It's like going out on dates. Be nice.
Never done that before, so...
Well, I'm giving you dating advice before you get there then. If you treat your airplane nicely, then you can treat your dates like you would your airplane. Except people tend to get jealous when you look at other dates. Planes don't get jealous, so maybe you don't want to date, I don't know. I would. I've been married for 29 years, I'm like, you know what? We're going to stick with this airplane business after this. Yeah, next notch of flaps, because we didn't do that on base, but that's okay. We don't always have to.
Right.
If you're already low, though, that's the last thing you want to add, because you're just adding drag. It's like putting on the brakes, but you haven't got to the stop sign yet.
Right.
Then you use your power to control how you're sinking. Use your airspeed, your yoke to control that airspeed. So she's getting just a hint slow, so you push the nose down. Anytime you take power out, you have to lower the nose. You add power, you can raise your nose. We're coming in a little low, so maybe just to add. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Right in there. So you gotta pointer straight. Now you can take that power all the way to idle. Let her come down low. Look down the runway as you level her out. This is bleeding off the
Traffic
airspeed.
not available.
And then as she sinks, it's as fast as you pull up. Oh, hello. See where that finesse comes in. So if she does come down a little hard in that one, you want to be sure you just get that nose back.
Alright.
Okay. Come back around. Try that again.
Good evening, 844 Hotel for Bonanza. We're directly over the top of Alliance, and we'll be entering right traffic 17, full stop at Hillcrest.
Not done yet?
Yeah.
Are we learning anything yet?
Yes.
That whole yoke and airspeed. If you change one, you got to change the other. That's kind of like trying to get the right temperature in the water. You got to turn the cold on, then you got too much cold, so you got to turn more hot on. You got to turn the cold back down. You're always making. You got to make adjustments, right?
Right.
So get off the brakes and more power. Get her rolling. Then you can. Once you get her rolling, you can usually ease it back.
Okay, yep.
And on grass, she's just always going to struggle more because the little bumps are always acting like little miniature chocks. With enough power, you can overcome them. And yes, I've seen people power up almost to full power to jump a set of chocks because they were too lazy to shut down and do it again. And mostly because they didn't pull them on the pre-flight, if they did a pre-flight. People, you are going to leave your chocks once or twice in your career and probably in front of your customer one time. And you're going to go, oops. Never be afraid to shut it down. If you do it on a check ride, don't ask them to get out or hold the brakes. You just literally shut things down. Because you wouldn't ask a passenger who's a non-pilot
Right.
to manage your airplane, and people have done it.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust nobody.
To somebody's detriment, usually. Many a person has gotten killed or seriously hurt. So, spin her around. We can move her to 10 degrees of flaps. Oh, we try this again.
844 Hotel, final 17, full stop at Hillcrest.
Okay, yoke comes back, and away we go. And you just relax as it pops up off the ground. Just relax a little. Find that perfect spot. Keep that rudder where you need her to go. Relax a little more. Relax your grip completely so she comes off the ground. Don't relax the rudder though. And then drop that nose good. So this is where you may have to give her a little nudge. Think thumb push, not whole arm push. That make sense?
Yeah.
That way you're finessing her as opposed to going doink, 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 doink. Because you get too close to the ground doing that, well, you might hit the ground again. The closer you get to the ground, the more finesse you gotta give her.
Okay.
Up here? Who cares? You just make your passenger sick, that's all. You're gonna have to work hard to scare me, though. Like the State Farm ad. The farmers, you know, the insurance ad. We know a thing or two because we sing a thing or two. I mean, I've had students, you know, right at the flare, suddenly yank all the flaps off. Oh shit, we're going to hit ground. There ain't no savings in that. Like, what were you doing? As they look at me going, I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
Stomping on that right rudder when you're still in the left turn. I'm like, what are you doing? Guys, you really are out to kill me today. Yeah, turn. For office, downwind runway 13, Romero.
That first 10 degrees now.
Power it back first. Always make sure your power setting's good, because you could end up in some airplanes, you can get it out of that wide arc very quickly. Then you can wide arc 10 degrees of flaps.
Right. 10 degrees.
When you get into something like a 182 and stuff, there's speed limits to the flaps, not just the wide arc.
Okay.
So you always got to know what is your limitations for your flaps and stuff, or gear, or things like that. Turn for final. See, right here, it's just a little far, so we let that wind, if we turned a little later, we let the wind push us, one of the two, or a combination of the two. But if we don't change much, maybe add the next notch of flap, we should be just fine. Watch your airspeed though, we don't want to come down faster, we want to still maintain our airspeed. So we adjust our power so we can help adjust our speed. Now we're just a perfect glide. That's actually just about right. Maybe a touch of power comes out because as we get to a certain point, it looks like if we change nothing, we can probably just yank the power out and just glide that far. So pull that power completely. You'll have to lower the nose just a hair. Just kind of relax your grip just a hair. You'll see how far she glides. And then you level out over the runway. Keep her pointed straight down the runway using those rudders. And then hold her off. Perfect. Perfect. And keep that nose back. So sometimes she bumps. That's normal. If it didn't go very high, you could just kind of resettle.
Okay.
Just hold in that spot in the yoke. If she jumps up very high, this is when your hand goes back on it so that you can do the go around.
Traffic not available.
That one never really leaves this spot. Because you don't want to accidentally grab the wrong thing either.
Right.
Yes, I've seen it happen. try to give them different feels, but I guarantee you don't notice that when you're, kind of in that, freak out mode of, oh shit, what have I done? Oops. Look at all these tracks you left. They seem to be improving.
I agree with that.
You can see how that rudder's got to be straightened out, all that. And while you're taxiing, sometimes if you got like nothing to do, this is when I go and adjust my flaps, maybe make sure carb heat's in, things like that. Do the little things that, prepare me for the next thing, or for parking.
Right.
Unfortunately, I'm gone all next week. Poor Michaela's got to run the whole thing for me. Well, Dave will be in the last half of the week. Unfortunately, he had to go sit reserve, maybe fly a flight or two. Double check, everything still looks right.
Alright, car's 10 degrees.
Yep. Here we go.
Does the mixture need to go back?
No, it's good for the leaning process, the same as we did on the other one.
Okay.
Get that little more nose out, yeah. So you want to pull back all the way before you get started. So you'll notice it really requires more right rudder. Relax a little, relax a lot. Get that nose down, get that nose down. There you go. Now she can fly sideways. You notice this? That's that wind.
Huh?
And you're neutral. Nothing changes. 10 degrees and away we go.
Oh my god.
So once you're in flight, you can kind of neutralize the controls and just let her weather vane, as we call it, as long as you're staying over your line. That's that crosswind. We are crabbing or weather vaning into the wind.
Okay, yep.
And then when we're landing, we correct for it by cross-controlling enough to straighten the airplane out. So we always want her to land straight. They tend to flip over if they don't. Kind of like a car, if it ever gets sideways, it might roll over. So like, okay, yeah, good point. Then you wrap your wings around, I like my airplane, let's not hurt her. Nice thing about landing on grass, it doesn't wear down my tires.
Yes, I know.
Look for the distance from the runway, time to turn. There's 18, we'll start kind of leveling out. Then we look for the end of the runway. And if you're not there yet, you can go, okay. Deep breath, and what's my next point? Always kind of think a half a step or a step ahead of the airplane. What's coming next?
Bring the power back down.
Yep. Never be afraid to talk it out loud.
And then first degree flaps.
And it's always a good thing to say either the speed or the white arc to say.
So white arc, first degree
flaps,
flaps.
yeah. Or if it's speed related, below 110 and
Okay.
that kind of thing. As you get into the current performance airplanes.
Right. For the 20 degrees?
Yep, 20 usually.
20 degrees?
You'll find most Cessnas really kind of like, at least these trainers, they love their 20 degrees. 30 is really when I'm pretty sure I'm going to land. You know, and maybe I'm on the slightly high side or even a Fort Field opposite kind of thing. So I can get down to my really slow speeds.
Right.
Then, you know, when I'm on final, I can go to my slower speed, but I may have to pull that power so that I can raise that, you know, keep that airspeed slower. So now we got to pull that power when you realize, oh, I got to raise that nose. And once you see that speed, once the power's out, you got to let that nose down so you're kind of chasing that airspeed, but not really, you're kind of chasing this sight picture.
Right.
Maybe just a touch of power. It looks like we're sinking just a little more than we thought, and that's the heat more than anything.
Okay.
Look at that. That's looking at perfect. Easing it out. All the way to idle. Level out. Keep her pointed down the runway. Whatever that rudder says. Hold it off. Keep that nose off. Let her sink. Look at that. Perfect. Feeling better?
Yes.
Like, I'm getting the feel. I'm getting the feel. It's the hardest thing to get that feel, but as soon as you, first couple times, you're like, I got it. I don't got it. I got it. I don't got it. And then all of a sudden it's like, I got it. I got the idea. And look, we're landing, stopping shorter and shorter every time.
Hey.
Because if we land with minimum energy, we don't roll as far. That's how you do short fields. The only obstacles I've ever found out here that get on my runway is turkey. I come in landing one time and all of a sudden these turkeys started crossing the runway. I was like, what the heck? Where did you guys come from?
You go around?
No, it was over too late. I was kind of in the flare. They had already cleared by the time I was like, where's that? Bridgeport, paved runway. I've had deer cross the runway. Oh, good God. That was a close one. Sometimes by the time you see them, it's almost too late to react to it. Like, shit.
I almost hit a turkey in my car once. Thought it was just a normal bird, but then it didn't move, and I got closer and closer, and then it was a turkey, and I slammed on the brakes.
Yeah.
My friend who was right behind me thought I was brake checking him. And then the turkey ran out.
Okay. Next notch flat. Yeah, always take the time to set up.
Alright.
Yep.
Full power, airspeed set.
Good one. Yeah, let that nose come off the ground before you start relaxing. Now you can start relaxing her. Rudder her straight, rudder her straight. Don't be afraid of her. Lower it down, lower it down. Don't let her climb out of this ground effect until you've got airspeed. Then, that's your biggest thing, is you don't be afraid of that low pass.
Alright, yeah.
At worst, she's going to land again. You got wheels for a reason. And it does happen occasionally. You start to lower the nose, and then she kind of sinks a little bit. She's just saying, hey, it's a little hot. I don't want to fly yet.
Alright, yep.
Sometimes you just kind of bounce and then it starts flying again. Because you got to remember, you took off with way less speed than you normally take off.
Okay, yeah.
So you just got to build up that airspeed over those wings. But that's what the 10 degrees was allowing it to do, is to get that extra lift. So I'm not always in a hurry to take those out sometimes, depending on how hot and heavy I am. So if it's a really hot day and I'm fairly heavy, I might wait till I'm closer to crosswind before I take it out. That way I've got that altitude. So if she sinks, it's not a big deal. Then she'll go back to flying. Usually.
Is it taking off faster because of the nose being up?
Yes.
Okay.
But like I said, it could come back down too quick. especially if you take the flaps out, because she's just going to sink in the reduction of the flaps. You're changing the shape of the wings, and she can't react to that without airspeed. I always tell everybody, it's a low pass. You always want to do a low pass. Look at the cool factor.
And it's traffic 7-1 is turning right downwind, climbing out in this traffic.
But you see the same thing in seaplanes and stuff. They get down, and then they get off the water. They get up on the step. They ride just the top edge of the water, and then they lift off. And they usually level out a little bit so they can build up that airspeed and then start climbing out.
Alright, there's the end of the runway, bring it back to 1700. And in the white arc, 10 degrees of flaps. And start base. Speed for the second run flaps?
Not really on this one, it's all white arc.
Okay.
So you usually should be slow enough. You get into some of the bigger airplanes, there may be a set speeds.
Okay.
And that's something you would study about that airplane.
Right.
But that first set, often in some airplanes, can actually be outside that white arc. But know that if you're in the white arc of the airplane, that's when you can throw out flaps, you can throw out gear, whatever drag you can put on an airplane. Usually. So you got a good eye for some of this. We just got to work on a little finesse, but that's normal. Yep, gotta start pointing her straight where you want her to go, or at least tracking straight down the runway, and then you can towards the flares when you rudder them out. You don't want to take out the cones. I've done that before at other airports. Level out. And as soon as you see her sinking, that's about as fast as you're pulling back. Then just hold it. Let it fall on her own way. The idea is don't add the brakes, because that's going to cause that nose to fall.
Alright.
Because if I stomp on the brakes, see how she goes down?
Yep.
So the idea is to not necessarily stomp on the brakes, but maybe in the short field, and even then, if you land slow enough, won't need to.
Right.
Yeah, gotta use more rudder. This ain't helping you.
I keep trying to move it because I'm already pulling it back.
Well, we got a quartering tail wheel, so really it should be this.
Right.
In this case, it's only full back because of the crest strip, but gotta be turning it. But yeah, anytime you're on the slope, that slope's gonna pull you, and you just gotta fight it. It's really interesting in the tail dragger because that tail's always trying to slide around. I'm like, get back over here. Okay, fix those flaps. this is already in, we'll go back to Prop Rush and
Alright.
see what the winds are like.
We're gonna head out to the left.
We're
Or
measuring, just go straight up.
Straight up. Okay.
That's the easy part.
Yeah, never mind.
You're like, wow.
Alright, there you go.
Yep. Get all the way back. There you go.
Going back. Full power.
Use those feet. Use those feet. Relax. Relax. More feet. Relax a little more. Relax a lot more. Yeah, touch just right there. Keep her straight. Airspeed's coming up. Now we're in the good. Because we don't want to hit those trees. So you don't want that wind to win that battle.
Right.
Don't let her, you tell her what to do and where to go. She doesn't know any better. She's like a Labrador puppy. They're super excited to do anything, but they don't know what they're doing. Now you can see Prop Rush right there.
Yep.
So we probably want to come down and get into the pattern altitude because we're already 5 miles away. I like to be at pattern altitude before I enter the pattern.
Around like 5 miles.
And usually the pattern starts about a mile away from the airport, so at 2 miles I should probably be at pattern altitude. In this case, I might just go ahead and enter the base leg as opposed to trying to do the whole pattern, unless you feel the need to do the whole pattern. For Alpha is about 4 miles to the northwest inbound Prop Rush. So let's see if you can attempt a similar landing just on pavement. It really is almost the standard landing. The soft field is almost what you want to do every time because it's usually your prettiest landing. It's all about, you know, touching down on the pavement, the squeakers.
Okay.
That's your goal in life. 90% of my landings never turn out that good. But the more you do it, the more you get better at it. But I always had a kind of a standing rule is midfield, go around. And it's usually because unless it was planned to land at midfield, because I don't want to taxi all the way to the end kind of thing, I should go around because I'm not really in charge of how this airplane is landing.
Right.
I didn't set it up right. And a good setup usually leads to good outcomes. A bad setup, well, only great skill gets you out of a bad setup. So you try not to fly into conditions that need your top-end skills all the time. But believe me, I've gotten myself many a time going, well, that's going to take everything I've got. Showed up back here, after, the winds were only 10, 15, come back, they're gusting to 30, you're going, what the heck just happened here?
That doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah, especially when it's right off the wingtip. I was like, okay, we're landing in the grass today, and the student says, it was almost 40 at the time of landing, and it was like, I think you landed at 80. I'm like, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I didn't look at any of this. It was just about a feel, getting this airplane straight, landing with the right amount of power, right amount of speed. So now we can kind of get into the base, whatever that takes. Yeah, we're close. About 8 for Alpha is on a 2-mile right base, runway 17 for upwatch. I just reported a 2-mile right base, just in case somebody wonders.
Alright.
That way, we're about 2 miles away and we're in the base already. Somebody could have been in the downwind, and I would say, well, we just do a 360 and wait for them.
Right.
It's like a roundabout. Somebody already in it, got to give away. And we get to the right spot, now I'd start setting up. So go ahead and pull it back just like you do in the other.
Back down to 17, we're in the wide arc, 10 degrees.
And now we're already on the base leg, so you can just wait and let her settle in, and then maybe go ahead and put the next notch of flaps in, because this is where we normally put the 20.
Right.
So you just kind of let it stabilize and do it again.
20 degrees.
Because you always feel a balloon, you go, nope, don't do that, girl. Get your airspeed under control, then you go back to normal flight.
And the traffic's kind of in one jumpers out below you.
Usually after 6 o'clock, the winds start dying down some too, so works in your favor.
Right.
But we've probably still got a crosswind.
Yeah.
You rudder the plane straight down the stripe, and then aileron, lean into the wind, as I say, or aileron into the wind. Only as necessary. But turn it on now, little rudder, little aileron. Watching that airspeed. She always wants to come down faster, but you got to manage the airspeed no matter how fast she comes down. There we go. Fire her up. Just your power. Full. Yep, I'd come out on the power some, just a little bit at least. It looks like we're going to... Right there's that crosswind. So just let her fly this way a little ways. Make sure that power's out. Airspeed's good. And then when we get closer, that's when we now rudder this plane straight. So you point the nose with your feet. And then you aileron a little bit into the wind and just adjust constantly. Still pulling it back. Just like that. Just like that soft field. And then as you get faster, you just slow down. You just roll that wing into the wind. You're on the ground. It's all on your feet now. And you can start adding some brakes as she feels comfortable. If she shimmies or shakes, you just release the brakes and keep the nose light. Kind of fun, huh? Little challenging because you got to do all that you were doing in the soft field, but now you got to add that weird aileron and feet in the weird positions, and it's never stable. So it's kind of like constantly in out, And so sometimes you may land just slightly crosswise by the time she finally touches, and you're like, but she'll straighten out. If it's a tiny bit, that tiny bit of side load on the gear is not going to hurt it.
Okay.
It's the landing it completely sideways that's going to hurt the airplane.
Okay.
And on my taxi back, sometimes this is where I'm doing the cleanup, carb heats, flaps, and sometimes I even do a mag check because I'm too lazy to do it up there. Because I can reach down and go one key, and I can kind of half watch that. But, focus on the plane, whatever you got to do. If you're like, I can't do all that right now, then you don't do it until you park. When you're a freight dog like me, I'm like, I'm flipping through the switches and doing all that before I get to the parking because I want to get out and get unloaded. I want to go home. to change surfaces. Headed for the center. Maybe add some power back in as you get, because we want to have enough power to go up the hill. And then we can power back and straighten her out. Whee! Close enough. Now we do a quick mag check.
For the right. For the left. Back,
That's why I count them. One,
back to left there.
yeah,
back to
and then one, and 1, 2. That's how I count them. That way I don't accidentally avoid hitting the starter and the off. And then I can go, radios go off.